Hello and welcome to another episode of the Frankly Leader podcast. And I am really excited to get into this conversation. Today we are talking to Chris Broadbent, Director of Naturaw. And I asked Chris how he wanted me to introduce him. And he said, please introduce me as Chris Broadbent 2.0. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you giving up your time. So you started your career in advertising?
Yeah, a long time ago. Point zero career. I worked in advertising and media for over 30 years. So yeah, I started as a graduate trainee at a large advertising agency in Manchester. I've always worked in the north of England. Sorry, I've got a dog here as well, by the way, which is why it sometimes
Oh,
turns.
we love dogs.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think I wanted to get into advertising. I did try very hard to get into that sector, but I didn't really understand what it entailed, and I sort of fell into the media part of it. Sometimes wish I'd been a creative person, or doing the copywriting, or but yeah, I ended up doing the numbers, and the media department was back then was regarded as the sort of arse end, to use a better phrase, of the advertising agency. It was the unglamorous
Yeah.
bit down the corridor.
And maybe that's where your desire to be a bank manager came in, the numbers link.
I don't think so, but it was, measuring things was interesting. I mean, now media is so important in everybody's
Yeah.
lives, but back then it was almost a dirty word. It was you were just buying an audience, and I sort of worked my way through buying local press ads for companies like Allied Carpets, and
A
very
tough environment.
yeah,
It's a
it was
really
hard
tough
work.
environment.
Yeah, everyone had a big ashtray on their desk full of, 400 cigarettes a day. It was work hard, play hard. Yeah, there was no, it was before computers really came on board. So
Yeah.
it was very, hard number crunching, pretty tedious work, really, not particularly glamorous and not particularly well paid. Compared to now, the sort of digital era, things are totally different in that sector.
Yeah. So tell us about when did your first leadership position come about? How did that all happen?
Probably when I had to sort of step up when somebody was off with a prolonged illness. It wasn't planned. I was a junior TV buyer in a team of about 6 or 7 people. Back then, everyone had different roles. It was very specific. You do TV, you over there do national press, you do local press. And I did enjoy the TV side of things. I had a boss, Anne, who was quite a bit older than me and very experienced, and she was, my sort of like guiding light and taught me everything I ever knew. And then she went off ill for quite a while, so I had to sort of step up to her job. I found myself in meetings and leading people and doing stuff that I hadn't done before at quite a early age in my career, really. But it was the first time I sort of realised, oh, this is when she did come back. I thought, oh dear, and actually,
Oh,
not that I didn't want her to get better, obviously, but
yeah, yeah.
it gave me a taste of things, and I realised that I didn't want to be just getting orders from other people. I wanted to using my initiative to having a taste of actually making things happen myself, I suppose.
Yeah, you're kind of like that first taste of work freedom.
Yeah, it's you don't really know until you're there, do you? But when you find yourself in a leadership position and that people are looking to you, it is quite empowering and a nice feeling to feel not to be sort of powerful, but just to be able to do the right thing and to help other people, and to come out of a meeting and got the desired results, and you think, yeah, this is good. I don't want to go back to just doing what I've been instructed to do. I want to actually use some initiative and make things happen.
Yeah. And so you've kind of alluded to this already, but I was going to ask, what do you enjoy about being a leader? And you've just mentioned some things there, but is there anything else that you've not mentioned?
Um, well, I suppose there's many. I've been a leader of that. That very first was a couple of people. Or maybe only another TV buyer, and then things escalated over the years. I ended up being responsible for a lot of people, and I think one of my strengths, hopefully anyone who's worked with me, would be that I enjoy helping people develop and fulfill their potential. I'm probably too peoply, too fluffy. I'm not a typical leader in terms of some of the people in that sector who are quite ruthless. I suppose it's the same in any sector to get to the top. I probably found myself going further than my capabilities. In honesty, I can see that now. because I'm not the sort of person that cut out for the role that I ended up in. So, but what got me there was helping grow people and having people progress on the journey with you, because it can be quite lonely being a leader. And
Yeah.
it's not as the matter of bringing in your own people. You've got to be able to manage the relationships above and below you to make the best of it. And I've always believed just being totally open and transparent and be your authentic self, I think is the phrase. I'd feel bad if there was a lot of people who said, "Oh yeah, I worked with him, he was horrible." He wasn't
Yeah,
a
yeah.
good guy. That would still cause me sleepless nights, even though I've had therapy to
Yeah.
understand that it actually, I worry far too much about what other people think about me. But I don't think in a leader you can, that's not a bad thing in a certain amount
Yeah.
of dosage.
I think it's really common. Nearly everybody I work with, particularly in a coaching context, has that sleep thing about, I worry too much about what people think, and I want to do the right thing by the business, but I want to also do the right thing by the people.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's
it's
it.
a hard parallel process to straddle, isn't it? To do both.
Yeah, it is. And you're often having conversations which are, you've got to be, it shouldn't really be tricky. There shouldn't really be any surprises in business. You know when people are performing or not performing, and you know that about yourself, and you've got to be honest about it.
Yeah.
But I think there's too many people in I'm sure in all sectors, in shouty roles who are perhaps of my generation as well. And there's a lot of you need certainly a lot of emotional intelligence, which I don't think a lot of people have. And as a leader, that's probably the most important thing, to be able to help people basically and help yourself.
Yeah, I would agree. So, thinking about leader more broadly, what does the word leader mean to you?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I suppose it's anyone who's inspiring people and who, anyone who you would look up to. And, it doesn't need to be someone in a senior position. It's someone who actually is just taking ownership and setting. I do feel, I always say tell the truth and set an example and do things the way that you would want things done to you. And I think anyone who's doing that, even in the hardest possible circumstances, I have literally been in situations where the office was bombed, or where
Wow.
we had to make everybody redundant, or with the company's been bought, or they're not nice situations. But if you're doing the right thing and treating people properly, people will then respect you, even if it's they're not coming out of the conversation in a good way. So I think
Yeah.
anyone who conducts themselves in that way that's the most important thing. And then if you've got the respect and people following and thinking that you are that right material, then anything can be taught in terms of knowledge. I'm clearly not a digital native, but I do know how to deal with people, basically.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
And there's two things I want to pick up in what well, three actually. I mean, the first one is like, crikey, you've been through some tough times. Given what you just said about those two examples of
Well,
really
yeah,
difficult, really difficult things.
yeah. I'm old enough, so the IRA bomb in Manchester
Yeah.
was. I was at the time working for a media agency, still around. It was called TMD then, and it's now called. It was called Aegis and various other things. Cara. So yeah, their office was totally wrecked. Obviously, it was on a Saturday, so luckily nobody was injured. No one was in the office. But yeah, having to sort of go in there and get things out, and then set up an office in Manchester that week. And yeah, that was quite a character building
Yeah.
exercise. Thinking back, actually, it was a long time ago. But yeah, in more recent times, in times with companies that have struggled, or where there's been like a takeover or a failed MBO and things from my past, yeah, I seem to be always the one left sort of holding the document, standing in front of the staff, explaining
Oh.
the situation. And I think there's some kind of, I quite like that almost. It's almost like I'm drawn to those situations because I think they do make you stronger. You might want to pause. I think the Amazon
Which,
man just arrived.
I was just going to say,
I don't think he's come to our house actually, boys. Uh,
all, all good in the hood.
No.
Oh, no.
2 dogs under the table, yeah. Yeah, so character building.
It feels like
Yeah.
your strength of being a people-centered leader meant that you were the natural choice for those kind of scenarios.
Yeah, I seem to be. I mean, other people will be running off for the pot of gold and looking after themselves. And I think, I suppose that I'm not trying to be a martyr, but I've always been a bit slow on that front. But if you can sleep better at night for doing the right thing, then I would do that every time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have enjoyed those situations perversely. And that has been the times when you've stepped up as a leader and you really didn't think, well, what were the pivotal moments in your career? Then they're
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
You learn more from your failures, obviously, and when things have gone wrong, those are far more uplifting to think. Yeah, we got through that actually. So actually, what we're facing now with XYZ situation is nothing compared to what we've done before.
Yeah, what we've been through. Yeah. The second thing I wanted to pick up on what you said a little while ago was we would say, frankly, leaders lurk everywhere in your business. And I love that you were kind of referencing anybody can be a leader and that you don't need to be in a leadership position or have the title of leader to be leading something.
No, I think that's it. You don't get to a point where you say, "Oh, you're now a leader," or you're not. I mean, anyone can be a leader of the people around them, and it is common sense, really, in that you've got to just be yourself as well, and be, people who are trying to be someone else often don't make very good leaders. They're not authentic, and so, we have a lady at work, Fran, our cleaner at Naturaw, and she is she speaks to me like she's the leader. I do what she says when I come in and
He's
the
got
arms.
power.
Yeah, and because she's in charge of that situation, and I think, well, she makes a difference to the business in terms of that area of responsibility, and I'm not going to question what she's doing or tell her what
Yeah.
to do. I'm going to do what she tells me to do, basically, and I think that's it. If you're empowering people that way and just being genuine, she doesn't speak to me any differently just because I'm a director of the business. So I think everyone should be like that.
Yeah,
We'll be in a
definitely.
better place.
It frees everybody up as well. It frees everybody up from trying to mind read another person, make assumptions about what's going on. It's like just show up and be your best self and act with integrity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many people, telling everyone how amazing they are on LinkedIn, and it's just a load of nonsense. I can't watch programs like The Apprentice and things
Oh
anymore.
no, I can't anymore.
It's just a load of manufactured nonsense, And coming back to the 2.0 thing, I think now that I'm actually in a business where, and I'll tell you a bit about the story, but I'm basically in a factory making things where people are being paid an hourly rate for doing an honest day's work. And it's just so refreshing compared. I'm not poo-pooing media advertising because it'd be the same in any sort of office-based sector. But you're in a bubble, basically, and the
Yeah.
bubble is, whether it's an accountant or whether it's a lawyer, or whatever sector you're in, and you only see, your sort of colleagues being paid quite a lot of money to generate money, obviously, and but not actually to make anything. And I think I know everyone can't be in a manufacturing business, but it's so satisfying to see something coming in, raw material turned into something, and then going out the door. And you have a brand, and people want to buy it, and you're making it. You're not making it for other people. You're not just getting it made and putting a brand name on it. You're actually owning the whole process. And so the guy who, minces up the dog food in the factory, or the cleaner, or the production supervisor or the van driver, are all just as important. And you actually have a family like that at work. It's so empowering. We're
Yeah.
not all trying to climb up the greasy pole. They're all leaders in what they do, basically, and that's really important too. They don't all have to earn huge amounts of money, but if you look after them, then that is the key, I think, to why I've found contentment in the new life, which I didn't plan at all.
Yeah.
But it's a very different environment to being stabbed in the front and back, and having a queue of people. In my old job, I was responsible for about 400 people, and it was just a queue of people, wanting more money for essentially no reason, as I can see now. I'm sure that's the same in any sector. So yeah, that's my rant. Sorry.
And you took some time out, as I understand a little bit of your story that I feel very privileged that you've shared with me. You took some time out, and as I understand it, it was your first dog that helped you find the 2.0 path. Is that right?
2.0, yes, there's one of them here.
No.
Yes, it was. You can say hello.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've got two working cocker spaniels, but yeah, we got a dog in about December 2018, and that was just December 2017. And yeah, because he's 8 this year. And that was just as I was sort of at the top of my sort of career in the media business, and it was just all becoming unsustainable. I was in London, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham, pretty much every week. I was responsible for different offices and traveling around a lot, and just wherever I went, I think I turned up and nobody wanted me there. I just felt like that.
No, it's hard if you're a people person as well.
Yeah, it was quite a tough gig, and really, I'd probably been promoted beyond my, um, not beyond my capabilities, but it wasn't enjoyable. I'm not
It
even
sounds
sure.
like the wrong context for you, not the wrong
Yeah,
level.
I had been, I can't, I had 30 years of doing very well and actually lots of good stuff, but in that particular organization, there was a lot of politics and a lot of um, fiefdoms, and it just, it unraveled for me. I just found it very stressful. I found myself literally, I don't want to make you cry here, but I was crying basically. My wife said to me one day, I came back from London, she said, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I don't really know. I was just in a stupor, drinking too
Mm.
much, stressed to buggery, overweight, just couldn't even focus on what was happening the next day. And I just like, well, she said, well, see if you can get an appointment at the doctor's. So I went to the doctor, and this really is a message for all men of a certain age in a stressful job. It is not worth it, basically.
Yeah,
Whatever you
yeah.
think it is at the time, it is not worth it. Your health is the most important thing. So I went to the doctor's and cried my eyes out in front of him for half an hour. I'd not even seen this doctor before. He was a totally new, he was such a nice guy. And he gave me a form to fill in and said, right, well, I'll sign you off for a few days and come back in a couple of days. Take a picture of this slip and send it to your boss. So I went home and I took a picture of it and I sent it. I messaged it to my boss who was in London, and turned my phone off, and I never turned it back on again.
Never.
No.
Oh, oh, oh. So did you
And
not have a follow-up conversation at all?
yeah, after a few weeks of sitting in the
Right.
garden looking at the sky,
Yeah.
I went cold turkey, and I
Oh, good
think
for you.
I went back to the doctor after a couple of days, and he said, "Well, I didn't want to tell you at the time, but I'm signing off for a month now, but I didn't want to say a month to you initially." So he just
Smart
became,
doctor.
yeah, he just became my best friend. So I went to
Oh,
see him every week. I had lots of therapy. Yeah, I was generally, I think they call it general anxiety disorder, but I wasn't suicidal. But I was extremely depressed, and work was not all of it, but a big part of it. The life
yeah,
I was leading was
yeah,
just not a life worth
yeah.
living. I was being paid a lot of money, but my analyst described it as, when I did get around to sort of talking about it a few weeks and months later, if you think of yourself as a flower with lots of petals, I only had one big petal on my flower, which was work, basically.
Oh,
So I learned to develop some other petals and not just think about work. So I'd allowed it to consume me as well, because I can't necessarily blame the company or the people. I think you don't realize it creeps up on you, basically, and you
yes,
realize you're living a life which isn't really, it's certainly not your best life, and it's not actually doing you any good. So
yes,
I can talk about it now. Obviously, at the time, I was very upset.
yeah.
But I've made it my mission to try and help people in the similar situation. So I've been writing a lot about it. I mean, for a year, I didn't do anything really. I went cold turkey. So coming back to the dog, I had lots of analysis and help and therapy. I went to like collective groups and had one-to-one sessions and things. That was in the spring of 2018. So, me and the dog was so well trained. I was out with the dog every day, just getting fresh air. I eventually came to an agreement with my employers after 6 months that they paid me off, basically. They didn't do anything special. They just paid my contract out. So I found myself, back being healthy and actually with a much better perspective on life in the autumn. So after 6 months with a well-trained dog and a much healthier body. And that's when the 2.0 sort of came in, and I saw an advert for a company, a local company, who were looking for a team member to drive the van 2 days a week. So I contacted them and went to see them, Tom and Jess, who are now my business partners. And they must have thought, it was a bit like an episode of The Apprentice, probably. I was like, yeah, I was then, shush, Melman. I was the chief operating officer, and then I wanted to be the van driver. So, but yeah, I would just hit it off with them and started a couple of days a week at this small business with 4 people. And then it just sort of escalated from there. But yeah, it was the dog that led me to it.
The dog led you to it. I just love that story. I love that story. Just thinking about going back to like being a leader again, like we've talked about what you love about it. What feels tricky?
The hard thing about being a leader, I think, is sometimes it's lonely. It was certainly lonely in my old job, because didn't really have anyone to talk to, and you can't just come home and offload. I don't feel that now at all in my new job, because I realise how important it is to have people around you that aren't just, saying yes, they're actually challenging you. I sort of want to be a sort of cheerleader for other people now in my role. And what's tricky is doing things that you're not good at or not comfortable with. There's being a leader, you need to do those things, but there's no shame in, saying, I can't do this, or I'm not good at that. Working with other people to, make a great team and play to each other's strengths. So I enjoy that. And I sometimes have to check myself, because I'm trying to do Chris Broadbent 1.0 and make us grow again this year at another 50% year on year. And it's like, no, we don't need to do that. So sometimes I think to have a word with yourself and actually just be more aware of how others might be seeing you. Because you don't always know best, even if you are the leader. You can learn from anybody. So I've learned more probably in the last few years from people around me, because it's great to, you can always learn. You can always do more and do anything really if you put your mind to it.
So in that very rich career that you've already had, and more to follow, but in the career that you've had, what's been your biggest lesson about being a leader so far?
I'd say be authentic, be yourself. Is when I've tried to be someone I'm not, I've really fallen fat. If you're not being true to yourself, then you're not going to be able to be a leader, because it's hard enough to bring people with you and not kid them. You can't please everybody all the time, obviously.
No.
But there's no point trying to just do what you think you should be doing because others are doing it. If you can't do it, you've got to face up to that and say, well, maybe better to take a step back. Or I've gone from a very lofty position to a driving a van, and that taught me more, about, as I say, we're working with real people on a living wage than I would have ever learned from people around me. So I think really a variety, it's always good. You can do anything. So what I've learned is, if you're not happy, if you're going to work every morning and thinking, I don't like this, then find something else. It's never too late. You can switch, transferable skills. You don't realize what you have got until you stop and actually think, I could do that. I could help them.
Yeah, I think there's so many good lessons in there. And I mean, you and I have spoken. I had burnout, and I had burnout, recovered from it to try and get back into work as quickly as I could, because my God, I could not be off sick. And I think that there's a very strong health warning in this conversation, which is that what I call the boiling frog metaphor. And you alluded to it earlier, that thing of, you put a frog into boiling water, he'll jump straight out. But if you put a frog into lukewarm water and just keep turning the heat up second by second, a little bit, he adjusts until he's dead.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, are you in the wrong place? Are you in the wrong role for you? Is it the right context?
Yeah, and then you don't often realise that until afterwards, and the hindsight is a wonderful thing, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to have, worked too long to know if you're not happy. I think you can kid yourself if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And it's obviously the fear of failure is massive, and I still have that now. But you're better, actually, you will learn even from failures, and you'll be a better person. So taking a risk. I did once do a deal with somebody, and he said, "What's the worst thing that could happen?" And convinced me that setting up a business for the price of a used Porsche was a good idea. And then years later, the worst thing did happen, and it cost a lot of
Oh
money.
no.
But I still wouldn't go back on that, because it was at the time, and it did create lots of great things did come out of that, but ultimately it failed, that business. But
But you tried.
exactly, and you think, and I don't want my whole 1.0 to be just what happened in those last few months of that job, because there was so many lessons learned, so much great stuff, and so many fantastic people who worked with who still I know and get on with, and you think, well, that's great, I've helped them and they've helped me. There
Yeah.
is a lot of fantastic people in that sector, and I'm sure because it is under real pressure, the advertising sector at the moment.
Yeah. So one of the things in this podcast is we're obviously in a really interesting time in the the planet's history. And I know Naturaw are a BCorp company, so I know that you've already got an eye to people and planet. But when we're thinking about the future that's coming and how our worlds are going to change, not just from climate, but from, I don't want to mention America, but I'm going to quickly mention America. And what we're living in it now, aren't we? And when you start to think like, oh, actually leadership and what we need to be effective as a leader is changing and evolving because the world is evolving. What are the skills that you think leaders need to have in their toolkit that will keep them future fit?
Good question. Well, I think you're right. The world is changing, and I think back to, well, has it always been like this? Because you think back to I was growing up when Thatcher was in power.
No. Full circle.
There is obviously always world dramas going on that affect that. I think so many things you can't control, and so the first thing I think is only there's no point worrying too much about stuff you can't do anything about. As long as you've done the best you can for the things that you can affect. So as a business, we've signed up to the Better Business Act. There's about, I think, 3,000 companies in the UK that have, and as a BCorp, we've just recertified this week, in fact, with score, which has gone up. Not as high
Congratulations.
as Lily's Kitchen score, but it's still good at 90.
Oh, you'll get there.
But that makes a commitment to look after people, to not just be greedy company owners, raking the profits off. I don't understand why everyone doesn't. Well, I do understand, but you in a better world, in an altruistic Chris Broadbent 2.0 world, everyone would be doing the right thing and being purpose-led as a business, and I think that the more that people do think about others, then it will help them be better businesses, because consumers want to transact with businesses that are acting in a responsible way. I know that if somebody next door is offering 50% off and XYZ, yeah, they'll go there. But when they realise that they're not paying their workers, and they're not they're using a load of plastic, and they're whatever else they're doing, they will come back to you, because doing the right thing does pay off and makes you feel better, but also is better for all the stakeholders as well. So I think leaders just need to be wise to that and actually spend time thinking about all of the constituent parts, not just their business, but where does it fit in? What good can they do?
Yeah.
And we could do a lot more. I mean, we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that's our sort of positioning as a business, is to not take the moral high ground. I think just do the right thing. So and not necessarily shout about it, which I also think we should shout more. But
let's get on and do it.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, it's like the LinkedIn thing, isn't it? Or it's like people telling you they've done X, Y, Z for charity. Well, yeah, we're doing all that, but we don't shout about it. I think you can feel smug knowing you are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smug.
So where do you go for inspiration? Who inspires you as a leader?
Oh my word! I don't know. Was that one of the questions you asked me to think about?
Yeah, I can tell you what your answer is, because it's one of my favourite inspirations as well.
Is it? Okay. What did I say? I mean,
Well, one of your inspirations was Ted Lasso,
oh, Ted Lasso. Oh, yes, yeah, of course, yeah. Well,
who I love.
yeah, carries on to about doing the right thing. Yeah, I mean, tell the truth, I do like Ted Lasso. I mean, most of my inspiring leaders have been women to start with. Most of my best bosses have been women, not all of them, but a lot of them. I do think generally. I work now with Jess, who's the founder of Naturaw, her and her partner Tom. But Jess is, she's juggling two young children and building a business, and it's tough, and he's 20 years younger than me. So I enjoy that dynamic of, it's making me appreciate just how useless I was, when I was off all the time when our kids were small, and it's like, how do people do it? So I am
Yeah,
inspired by
yeah,
people who are doing multiple things, and I think the more we can have like female founders, the more that we can. I used to work with a lady called Danielle Bateman. She's a coach now of female business owners, and I think there's a whole community of people who were not even heard before, really. So
yeah.
I am not a woman, obviously, but I've sort of tend to sort of gravitate towards them in terms of business, because I don't really get inspired by the shouty male.
Well, it's music to my ears because as women, we do need male allies, and that I love. That was one of the things that made me cry when I got your notes through.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
One of
didn't
the
mean to
three
say that.
things that made me cry.
Yeah, well, I do write a thing called "You Can Do Anything" on Substack, and I was doing it every week, but I've probably got about 60 or 70 posts on there. But one of them was entitled "The Strong Girls Club," and I'll send you a link. But there was a link to about 12 different women who inspired me in that,
Oh,
and one of them was my first ever boss, actually, Pauline.
oh,
Yeah.
oh!
That's tearing me up now
I
thinking about
know,
Pauline.
me
Yeah.
too.
So yeah, Pauline's son died. Unfortunately, took his own life later. After I worked with her, but yeah, she read that and sent me a note. She was very,
Oh, really
very nice
touched.
to read it. Yeah, so and you do remember that. I mean, that was my first ever boss. She was brilliant, but yeah, it's like you just get inspired by different people as you go along in life, don't you? But it's
Yeah,
often not necessarily the most successful ones, but just the ones that you really connect with and think, well, they have really got properties that I want to have, basically. That's the way.
yeah. And like linked to that, then, like in terms of support, what support do you think leaders need to put in place so that they can be at their best more of the time than not?
I think just having forums to talk, and people to
Mm,
share stuff with. I mean, we've recently got a non-exec director on board in the last year. He's helped do lots of stuff, and just be someone who's sort of impartial to, works with other businesses as well. So it's great to share stories with other people. I think having a community, we have BCorp groups where people in different sectors are facing the same issues. Um, I think just having people around you who are not just saying yes, to what you say and challenging you, and getting away from work and talking to friends and family about stuff, and just as many petals on your flower as possible, I would say. Not
yeah, I love that.
another thing I would say is just actually making time for yourself to go and have mindfulness, or for me, obviously the dog and walking and fresh air is a key part. So I don't go
Yeah,
into the office every day. I spend quite a lot of time away from work thinking about stuff and talking to other people about it. Because if you're just sat looking at a screen all day, whatever you're doing, or just working with the same people, you get very sort of caught up in it, and obviously it's a bubble, isn't it?
mm.
So the bigger you can, the bigger you can make, the better, really. So yeah, that's my sort of feeling where to go.
Last two questions.
Okay.
Other than being a bank manager, if you could do any job in the world, what would it be?
um, I I don't want to sound smug, but I'm quite happy with doing what I'm doing. Really, I don't.
Chris 2.0.
Yeah, Chris Broadbent 2.0 is a good job. It's um, It's fine. It's got the right balance. It's with nice people. We don't need to prove anything to anyone. Another one of my writings was "It's too late for perfect," and I think
Oh, I love
I
that.
love that title because you can try and think, oh, well, this would be better, that would be better, but actually just appreciate what you've got.
Yeah.
So we've got a plan. I'm a certain age. I want to help grow the business and make it as good as possible, and then I'll be out at some point in the future because there's other things as well, and you can't let work take over your life. So
Yeah.
think about it in the context of other things, not just what's the best job, but what does the best job allow you to do as a person.
Yeah. I love that. I love the flower metaphor as well with the petals. So last question. Is there a question that's missing from my interview list that you think I should be asking leaders?
Well, I thought, well, why aren't we working with Frankly? I thought that was the
That was a
question.
brilliant answer.
But no, seriously, I think how did we find each other was my question, because like the dog leading me to Naturaw, as it says on our website, that he climbed the corporate pole and then the dog, he got the working cocker and led him to Naturaw, and the rest is history. It's like, you never know who you stood next to in a
Yeah.
coffee venue, or you never know what's going to happen. And I think just ask people how they got where they are, and often it's something that it wasn't planned, And I certainly, when I joined Naturaw to drive the van, I didn't expect to be part owning the business, 6-7 years on, and you don't know where you're going to be. So I think everything as an opportunity, and ask people, not necessarily where they want to go, but what could they do? Don't rule anything out. It's
Yeah. I absolutely loved talking to you, and I think the thread for me that's run through has been act and live with integrity and cultivate gratitude. I mean, there's so much I could talk about, but those threads just seem to have run through out the whole conversation. So just to say thank you so much for giving up your time, for sharing so bravely. Also, thank you for making me cry, because I do like to have a good cry. And I did cry 3 times when I got your pre-notes. So thank you, Chris. It's been a real privilege.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. Well, I hope it helps anybody who listens.
Yeah, thank you.